Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Two Nerds in a Podcast. Today, we are talking about the second half of
Barbenheimer.
Barbenheimer, which is Oppenheimer. Um, Casey actually saw this one first. I just seen it this morning,
Yeah,
and I
it
thought it was
was,
amazing.
aside from being a 3-hour movie, which was a lot, it was so good. Like, Barbie and Oppenheimer are probably the best movies I've seen in a long time. Like, very good.
Yeah, definitely a good way to jump back into
hmm
going to the movies for sure. Because for at least for me, like COVID jacked everything up. A lot of things, travel, movies, whole shebang. But after COVID, I used to be at the movie theater at least like 2 to 3 times a month because
Yeah.
I'd just go see whatever was out. Um, Especially because Marvel was on a roll with the good movies for such a long time, so I was always there Thursday nights for premieres. Um, and so after COVID, I just kind of, I'd be like, I need to get to the theater to watch this, and then 3 months goes by and it's out of the theater and it's on DVD or on a streaming service, and I went, well,
See, and I'm not a big movie goer person. Like, I don't usually go to the theaters. I think I've been to
yeah,
the theaters more times this year than I have in a long time. Because normally I'm like, well, it looks good, but I'll just wait for it to come out.
yeah,
But I had to see these two movies at the
yeah.
theater pronto.
Yeah, it was definitely come enjoy the movies this weekend kind of movies. I was actually, since Oppenheimer was 3 hours, I was expecting for it to drag somewhere. And at least for me, because I went and saw it with my mom, so we were both talking about how it didn't really there was no true slow parts of the movie. Like,
Mm-mm.
there was always something happening, and they flicked a lot between past and present. So like
Mhm.
it's one of those movies you have to pay attention because you stop paying attention for 2 seconds and you miss something.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely one of those movies where you have to pay attention. Like, I know, like, I had to go to the bathroom so bad in like the middle of the movie, but I was like, I can't get up and leave. It's 3 hours. I just have to push through.
But it was so good. The cast is phenomenal,
Oh my God.
so
That's what
good.
I want to talk about. The cast for this movie is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Like, I swear, every time there was a scene, I'd be like, oh my God, it's that person. What are they
Yes.
doing here?
Yes, and it's
Yeah.
like people that you don't frequently see in like big box office movies, but it's such a
hmm
pleasure to see them in movies like this. I think my favorite is still that Josh Peck was in there, and
Yeah.
I was like, Josh, what are you
Josh,
doing?
what are you doing? Why are you gonna detonate that? What are you doing there?
Yeah. All the memes that have come out of Josh Peck being in this movie are absolutely amazing.
Yeah, Josh Peck and I don't know his actual name, but Huey from The Boys
Yes.
were not two people I was expecting to see in that movie.
Yeah, Jack Quaid. But yeah, I
Yeah.
remember because I follow Jack on Instagram, and so I remember him saying something about Oppenheimer, and I was like, whoa, whoa. Because, like, Jack Quaid in my mind is that like funny, goofy guy who's in stuff like The Boys and Star Trek and stuff along that line. And the fact that he was in here, I was like, I'm very confused. But he was amazing. He's still his cute, goofy self. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the guy who plays Oppenheimer, what's his name? Killian something?
Killian Murphy, I think. I
I think
actually don't
so.
know. Wait, I have the cast on my phone.
But
Yeah, Killian Murphy.
Killian Murphy, he was stunning. I mean, he always, like, everything I've ever seen him in, he's just a brilliant actor. And so he carried the title of Oppenheimer very well.
Mhm.
Somebody who I wasn't expecting to play a character that they did was Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, that one threw me off a little bit.
Yes, and it's because I watched a snippet of an interview with him, and he was saying how this movie in particular was very challenging for him because he wasn't the charismatic, sarcastic,
Mhm.
funny guy like he typically is in a lot of his movies because obviously when you look at him, you think Iron Man.
Yes, of course.
And even if you've seen the movie Weird Science, when he's like, I think he's like 20 in that movie, um, he's so cute. He's got the curliest hair, adorable. But he's still that kind of, he's like kind of like a sarcastic, bully kind of person in that movie. And so to see him in a role that doesn't have any funny one liners, that is doing things in the shadows, that is very serious and very calculating, was very odd because that's not who I would have pegged Robert Downey Jr. as. But
Mhm. But
I
he did
think
an
he
amazing job.
so well. He did it so
Yeah.
well, and I was just like amazed because I was not expecting him to be the sneaky guy who's playing in the shadows, who's coordinating all of this
Mhm.
stuff against Oppenheimer. And I'm just like, wow, that's like a whole, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. just like a whole new level now. He is already brilliant, but now
Yeah.
it's just like a whole new thing.
Yeah, his character and the way he portrayed it was it like the whole cast is insane, but yeah,
Hmm.
I was not expecting that and the whole movie I was just like, wow, so this movie is so well done. It's so
Yes.
good. And I if it wasn't 3 hours, I would go see it again.
Yes, that's true. But and I loved the way I love Christopher Nolan on a whole as a director is amazing. I loved his obviously the Dark Knight series, beautiful masterpiece. I love his like visual take on a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
I love that he used both color and black and white because I feel like black and white's not as
Yeah.
common anymore because we have to have everything in like super HD and color. And it was still very much HD and like 4K and IMAX and all that jazz. But the black and white, just like it was a nice visual differentiation between like
Yeah.
past and
Mhm.
present and stuff like that. Also, Robert Downey Jr. looks spectacular in black and white.
Yeah, his character was so well done and like I went into this movie not knowing much about Oppenheimer, just in
Hmm.
general, the historical facts of it. So watching it and then like watching how everything unfolds was really cool and the way they did it was super well done.
Yeah, and I like that we got to see kind of. I mean, it was about his time on the Manhattan Project, but we got to see how he got there, how he was able to
Mhm.
get into the position of being the director of that project. Matt Damon was also,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
I love
so
Matt
good.
Damon in anything, but like he just really encapsulated his character and just a very like I feel like typical military man where he's like dead serious all the time, but he kind of jokes in a way that you're like, wait,
Mhm.
are you serious or no? And then he just
Yeah.
like walks away and you're like, okay, I guess you were
Okay.
serious. I don't know.
Yeah, I loved Matt Damon's character. I also really loved, Emily Blunt's character as, his
Yeah.
wife,
Yeah.
and, Florence Pugh, who is one of my favorite actresses.
I
She
was
is
not expecting her to be in
amazing.
there. I didn't realize she was
Yeah,
in here. I mean, I knew she was at the premiere, so I figured she was in there somewhere, but her character just for me came out of like left field. That was not who I was
yeah,
expecting her to play.
yeah, but she did a really good job at it, and,
Mhm.
like, truly, the cast of this movie is so phenomenal, like, I just can't get over how great the casting was for it and
Yeah.
how everyone's character they just portrayed it so well.
Yeah, and everybody fit. Like I feel like nobody stood out more than anybody else. Like they all had
Mhm.
important, roles to play and they did it so well and they played their characters perfectly that it just all melded together so cohesively. It was beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, it was spectacular. One of the greatest movies I think I've seen in a long time, which is not saying much. I don't watch a lot of movies, but, I have seen a couple movies this year.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those movies cuz like when movies start to hit that 3-hour mark, I'm like, okay, you better be spectacular because there's very few 3-hour movies that I will rewatch.
Yeah, mhm.
Lord of the Rings is one of those series that I can rewatch, but even I was telling my mom about this in the second one, which is Two Towers. There, it's I'm pretty sure that movie's either 3 hours or just under 3 hours, but there is like a space in the movie where if you're tired when you're watching that movie, you will fall asleep because like nothing actiony is happening because they're basically just running across, to Mordor. Like
Mhm.
there's no war or anything to capture your attention. And then movie we recently saw, well, recently, I mean, I think it was last year when Dune came out. Dune has a section towards the middle where it's very slow. And again, if you are not caffeinated, you will fall asleep because there's nothing happening. There's just a lot of
Yeah.
talking, and you're just like, eh. And I was expecting this movie to have that, and it didn't. It had a very short,
No.
like maybe 2 minute long section where you could like get up and pee and come back and not miss anything too pivotal, but like that was the only section I saw that was like that, and that wasn't
Yeah.
even like halfway in. That was a little bit closer to the beginning. But otherwise, if you got up and you went to pee, then you would have missed something for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that movie definitely didn't have a lot of a lot of down moments.
The costume design for this movie too was beautiful.
Mhm.
Everybody
Yes.
looked phenomenal in everything that they wore. I loved all of the women's hairstyles. I love that,
Mhm.
World War II era. Just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I also like Oppenheimer's hat. I think it's a
Oh my
great hat.
gosh. Iconic. Definitely
Iconic,
iconic.
yes.
I do love when he came out in his little like military uniform, and I'm like, why is he wearing that? And then I can't remember who asked him, but they were like, why are you wearing that? And I'm like, exactly, why is he wearing that?
Right.
And
That is not that's not what he
he's just
wears.
yeah, he's just like, well, this is they only want us to kind of like, be a part of the military. And the one guy was like, no, no, just put on your regular clothes. You're a scientist. Look like a scientist. And then he went put his hat back on and his normal attire. And I'm like, yes, that looks more correct.
Yeah.
I think I also went into this movie not knowing a whole lot about Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project. I knew it was in New Mexico, because it was quote unquote in the middle of nowhere. Um, but yeah, it was kind of neat to see all the people that were involved. Like Einstein was in there, and all of these brilliant scientists that all like existed at the
Mhm.
same time. I'm just like, wow, it's so weird because, like, I feel like in school, when you're learning about stuff like this, they try to make it very linear. Like, this person was first, and then this person came, and then this person came, but it
Yeah,
obviously
not seeing
is
them
not
all
like that.
together. Mhm.
Yeah, and they were all together, and they were all working on one project. And then, even before he got the project, he was traveling around Europe and stuff to learn from all of these people, and that's how you did it. And I think that's how education should still be approached, because like you learn so much from other people, not just staying in school and doing your own thing. So it was really cool to
Mhm.
see different scientists from different countries interact, especially in that time era where everything was very sensitive when you were out of the country.
Yeah. Also, like, it's just so crazy to think about how not long ago this was.
Yeah.
Like, there are people that are very much still alive that have lived through this, which is just
Mm-hmm.
it blows my mind because obviously I can't relate to that. I don't know what it was like back then. I only see what the movie brings me, but like
Yeah.
it's so crazy that like it really was not that long ago,
Mm-mm.
which just like will always just blow my mind. I don't know. I'm like that was in the 40s, which is not that long ago.
No, yeah. And again, like you said, people are still alive, and we're still seeing the like repercussions of what that is
Mhm.
doing to us as a country and like us as the world. Because I feel like every once in a while something will come up where they're gonna say, this country is gonna attack us, and I feel like it just brings all of that back up again. So it's very
Yeah.
strange. I liked the kind of, I don't want to say random because it wasn't random. It was done with a purpose, but the kind of abstract, like stars and
Mhm.
like energy moving and stuff like that. I liked that kind of insert, kind of
Yeah, like the
to
cut between,
be,
like, the clips and stuff.
yeah, to be kind of like how he saw the universe. Because, I mean, we always have these figures in history that stand out as being a brilliant mind. And I always wonder, like, how they see the universe. Because obviously, we, regular folk, see the universe, I feel like, relatively the same, but obviously a little different
Yeah.
because everybody's brain is different. But to have somebody who's so smart, and especially somebody who works in theory, like, I can't even imagine doing something like that. Like, I remember in both high school and college, anytime we had to work with theory and theoretical stuff, my brain just could not, like, wrap itself around stuff like that, because I'm like, well,
Yeah.
but where's the
Me either.
answer? And they were like, it's theoretical. It could be the answer. It could just be absolute garbage. And I'm like, oh, okay. My brain was just like, we can't do that. I'm so sorry. So
Yeah,
it was
I
kind of
literally give myself a
cool.
headache if I think about the universe too much. Like, I'll give
Yeah.
myself a headache from thinking about how big the universe is.
Oh
The
my
fact
gosh.
that, like, especially, like, with the, like, because we didn't have, like, the technology we have now
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, so the fact that, like, somebody can just make an atomic bomb just because they're so smart and they understand this stuff is just crazy to me.
Yeah, and that all of these scientists were, like, learning from each other by, like, actually going to either visit each other or reading each other's, like, papers and books and stuff like that. It wasn't like you could just quickly, like, type into Google, like,
Yeah.
what is so and so's latest published paper? Like, you had to, like, go and seek out this information and actually research. Not research like we do today by Googling, but, like, actually research and,
Yeah.
like, go and read and
Go to
look into it, and
lectures, yeah.
yeah, and go to different universities and figure it out. And, like, that is what they did with their life, which is amazing. All the possibilities that could come out from something like the atomic bomb. And I do like, there's
Mhm.
one section, it's in the trailer and obviously in the movie, where they're talking about, it has a very low chance of destroying, the planet. And he was like,
Yeah.
low? What do you mean low? And he goes, well, when you're working with theory, what more can you expect? And he's like, how about zero?
Yeah,
And
but
it's
yeah.
like, yeah, and it's like, you can't, because I mean, like, who knows? I mean, stuff like this has never been done before, so who knows what it's gonna do, what it's gonna unravel. And it's just like, you're standing on the edge, and you don't know if it's going to be the absolute destruction or if it's gonna be something revolutionary.
Yeah.
And then I loved, which I actually need to see, for President Truman, was that Gary Oldman that played him?
Let me see. I have the cast pulled up on my phone.
And it was. I thought it was. Because I looked at him and he definitely looks like President Truman. But I'm like, I know that face. Why do I know that face? Because it's Gary Oldman and I love Gary Oldman. But he played President Truman very well. Like, some of these people, I feel like Gary Oldman as President Truman and whoever it was that played Einstein literally looked so much like the people they were playing.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is absolutely insane. Um, and I just, like, again, we're going back to the casting was phenomenal. Like,
Yeah,
this,
I honestly I can't say that enough. The casting was just chef's kiss.
yeah,
So good.
amazing. But yeah, I do love that they included Oppenheimer's meeting with Truman and Oppenheimer's kind of struggle with feeling like the blood of all the people that the
Mhm.
bomb he created killed was on his hands, and President Truman just hands him his handkerchief and goes, "You may have created the bomb, but I'm the one who dropped it. So it's not on your hands. Suck it up and forget it." And I'm just like,
Yeah.
wow.
And then he's like, "Get this crybaby out of here."
Oh my god, I know. And I'm like, I can't believe you just called one of the most brilliant scientists of your time and of just time in general a crybaby.
Crybaby.
Like, he's a scientist, not a military man. He was not expecting to, like, feel this way.
Or yeah, like, and then when he's giving, it's, like, after they drop the bomb,
Mm
when, he's giving, like, the speech and he kinda starts, like zoning out
hmm. Mm hmm.
and,
Mm
like,
hmm.
hallucinating, like, all the bodies and stuff, I was like, "This is
Yeah.
intense. This is a
Yeah.
lot."
Yeah, and I can't imagine being, because I mean, you're a scientist. You've got probably most people like laughing at you that are not in the science community because they're like, "Wow, you're probably a whack job because you're a scientist." And then all of a sudden, to create something like the atomic bomb, to have the president go drop it on a country that you're at war with, and then all of a sudden to be thrust into the limelight after your greatest success, I can't even imagine. Like, that must have been so terrifying. And just obviously in the movie you see it, his mental health is just not good at that point. And
Yeah.
because you're a scientist and you're a man at that time, you don't get help and you don't get to be a quote unquote crybaby. They're just like, suck it up and deal with it. And I'm just like, this man has been through, I mean, they spent, I think it was what, 3 years on the Manhattan Project? That's a long time to spend on one project. I can't even get my mind to
Mhm.
focus on a project for like a month, let alone like 3 years. I feel like they portrayed his mental struggle just throughout his whole life in general very well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, they
Florence
did a really
Pugh's
good job.
character
Yeah.
took me for a spin because for when she appeared out of nowhere, I was not expecting her to appear when she did. And I do like that, that she played a communist character. That made me laugh a little bit because I'm like, of course.
Yeah.
Uh, gotta have probably one of the most attractive women portray a communist in this movie. And I do like that they kind of uh, they touched on her character Jean's and Oppenheimer's toxic relationship, but
Mhm.
it wasn't the focus because
Yeah.
obviously the Manhattan Project was the focus of this movie. Um, but I do like how they showed it affected both him and her, both short term and long term. And then when she died, I wasn't expecting her to die. And I was just like,
Yeah, I wasn't
whoa.
either. Yeah, and then, like, his wife, Kitty, who
Yeah.
Emily Blunt plays, did such a good job. Also, like, I just wanna give her, not Emily Blunt, but Oppenheimer's wife, props
Yeah.
because the fact that she, like, still stayed with him and, like, stuck with him, and
Yeah.
even when he was, like, in the, not the trial, but, like, when he was
But yeah,
doing all
the
the
yeah, all
I
the
don't know what
it wasn't a trial because they kept saying it's
no,
not a
they kept
trial.
saying yeah.
It's not a trial, and we're all looking at it on it is a trial. It's just you don't have
Yeah.
to follow any of the rules. It was like I guess an investigation, I guess is what it would be.
Yeah,
Just like a
something like that.
they
Not a
were
trial.
yeah, they were discussing on whether they were going to renew his security clearance.
Mhm.
So it was just like a basically like a performance review almost is what they were trying to make it seem like, but it was very much an interrogation.
Yeah.
I do love when she was not getting interrogated and she just had a smart aleck response to everything that the one
Yes.
dude
Yeah.
said, and she's just like, you're not asking me the question in the right way, so I'm not going to answer it because you're being dumb. And I'm like, yeah, go Kitty.
Yeah, yeah, that part was, like, gave me, like, goosebumps, but Emily Blunt does, like, such an amazing job, like,
Yeah.
she's such an amazing actress, and the fact that she was Oppenheimer's wife and the way she portrayed her, just so good.
Yeah. And I love that like her character, she says at one point in the movie that she's from money. Like she comes from a rich family, but like
Mhm.
that's not her reason for being anything in particular. Like, she was a biologist, which was really cool, and um I liked her character showcased the struggle of being a woman in that time, because she was always married. She always had to be married to somebody. Um
Yes. Mhm.
and and it just showed that you couldn't really be anything necessarily without being attached to a man, because you were definitely not taken seriously if you were a single woman. But yeah. And then I was really surprised that Kitty stayed with Oppenheimer even though he had cheated on her with Jean.
And she knew about it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that cuz she thought something was wrong, and she came and found him, and he had said that Jean had died, and um he had confessed that he had slept with her, and she just, like, you could see all the emotion immediately turn off, and she just told him to suck it up and to deal with it, and to,
Yeah.
like, get back in the house. And I was like, wow, that's a strong woman for you, that she did that for him.
Yeah. Yeah, that was intense and very
Yes.
good and very well done. Yeah, and the fact that she kind of, like, helped Oppenheimer's case when
Mhm.
she was being questioned after going through all of that, I was like, "Man, I give her credit because I would have not done that."
Yeah, yeah, I feel like a lot of women would have either crumbled under the pressure or would have thrown their husband under the bus. And she wasn't even mad that, like, she was being interrogated, but she was just mad that they were, like, knowing every little piece of their lives and picking it apart. That was the thing she didn't like. She didn't like the fact that her privacy was being invaded. She could care less
Mhm.
that she was involved. She just didn't like that they knew all the information, and that it was destroying her husband's reputation after he just did all of this service in the name of his country,
Mhm.
and let us win the war. We won the war with that bomb, and then all of a sudden he's being drugged through the dirt because he made fun of Robert Downey Jr.'s character one time, like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Um,
Crazy.
yeah,
Very good. Very good. 10 out of 10.
yeah,
Would recommend. Would see again if it wasn't 3 hours long. Also,
yeah.
when I went on Thursday and the theater was so packed. I, like, went by myself and I had to sit next to, like, these 2, like, little old ladies, and I was like, "Can I sit here, please? There's no other
That's
seats."
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I went today, today is the 30th, it's Sunday. When
Mhm.
I bought tickets last night, and I was looking, they had, because I like to go to the theater in the morning. I looked at the 9:15 show, and that was full except, like, the very front row. And I'm like, oh. So I went to the next show, and that was almost full. And I was just like, wow. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it to be that full.
Yeah, and I went on a Thursday at 1 o'clock, and the movie theater was full. I was like, "Oh, man." And I, like, was like, "Oh, there's not gonna be anybody here. It's
Yeah,
Thursday. It's one
and it's a
o'clock."
week
Like,
later. Like,
yeah, and it's already been out for, like, a week. Who's gonna be here? And I was like, "Wow, I underestimated this a lot."
yeah. We did have, I noticed there was a family sitting next to us that had a boy. He was probably about 10. And the second that Florence Pugh's tits flashed across the screen, I went, "Oh no!" And I literally saw, I don't know if it was the mom or the
Oh,
dad, but I just
no.
saw an arm go flying across, and I'm like, "Ah, no, awkward."
Yeah, I was sitting next to, like, these 2 little old ladies, and I was like, I heard there was, like, nude scenes in the movie, but, like, the way
Mm-hmm.
that I heard it, it was, like, a lot worse than it was.
Oh yeah,
Um, so it wasn't, like, anything crazy, but I was like, "Man, I just don't want to be sitting next to these 2 little old ladies when I there's a bunch of nude scenes." But, like, it wasn't
yeah.
that bad.
Yeah, I had heard that there was nude scenes too, but I was like, when people say that, I'm like, okay, but is it like Game of Thrones kind of nude scenes? or is it just like, the brief like flash of somebody's boobs? And it was
Yeah.
Florence Pugh was naked. That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they
I
made
was
it
like,
I mean,
oh,
what I heard was it was, like, crazy, and I was like, "Oh, no, I don't wanna sit next to these little ladies when a bunch of
yeah.
nude
Or
scenes
like they
pop
were
up,"
gonna
but
be doing some kind of act that you were just like, oh god, I need to shield my eyes. But like
yeah.
she was in his lap. Like there was nothing, at least by the standards that I've seen in the last few years, it was like nothing. And it was
Yeah,
very
yeah, it wasn't that bad.
short. Like again,
Yeah,
like she flashed across the screen naked and like got into Oppenheimer's lap, and that was it. Like there wasn't, I don't know, enough time for it to be like sexy or anything like that, I guess. I don't know,
yeah.
but I was expecting more and it wasn't that way.
Um, I so I found this on TikTok, but I wanna
Mhm.
read a couple because they're so funny. These are reviews for like, some people left reviews for Barbie
Yeah.
and Oppenheimer.
Uh-huh.
This one is for this one's for the Barbie movie, but it's so funny. It says when Killian Murphy made a cameo at the end wearing a blonde wig and said hi Barbie and then blew up Barbie Land, life was changed. So that was a good review. There was another one that said and nobody told him to stop Oppenheimer. This one is one of my favorites. It says terrifying stuff. Did people really used to wear hats like that?
They're like, great movie, but the fashion, was that true? Was that the true part of the movie?
They're like, man, bombs are scary, but
But that
those
hat.
hats. I was crying. There was so many of them. That there was one that said, thank God for the black and white scenes because his giant blue eyes were so fucking scary.
Yeah, I saw that one too. And then I saw somebody was like, "Oh, my sister went and saw Oppenheimer and there was something wrong with the camera. So the movie played in pink, so they saw the true
The
Barbenheimer."
true Marvin. Oh, yeah. I love, like, the memes that come out of, like, big
So
movies like this
good.
because 'cause they're so funny. Like, the Josh Peck ones,
Oh
like,
my
are
gosh.
so funny.
The Drake and Josh memes, and he's just like, I'm gonna press it.
I'm pressing it.
I'm
It's like,
pressing
oh my god, it's so funny because he actually pressed the button.
it. Yep. Or the it's
It's so
spherical one. Just like, it's spherical. I think he has like a bowling ball in his hand, but I'm just like, oh my god.
yeah,
Oh,
I just thought those were hilarious, and I just had to share them because I
so good.
I was just crying out laughing. I was like, "They're so good." It's not
Yeah.
a very funny a ha funny movie, but those are funny. Um, it's a very good movie though. 10 out of
Yeah,
10.
I did like somebody in an interview asked Killian Murphy if he would want to be in Barbie 2. And he was just like, oh, yeah, definitely. And I'm like, oh my gosh. He could be Oppenheimer Ken.
Yeah, we'll just have the ultimate Barbenheimer
Yes.
crossover. Yeah, yeah, so good. The memes and everything coming out of these movies
Top notch.
are so good. Yes. If you haven't seen this movie, I don't know how you've made it this far because
Yeah.
we have a lot of spoilers. But if
I
you
was going to say
haven't,
it's
you
all
should
spoilers.
definitely it's all spoilers.
It's all
If you
spoilers.
haven't, you should. Even though it's 3 hours long cuz that's like when people are like I want to see that movie but it's 3 hours long. I'm like listen, I understand that that's a long movie and
Yeah.
I have the attention span of like a goldfish because I watch anime, right? It's only 20 minutes long. That's like about as long as
When
I
you're
can do in one sitting. Yeah. So, if I can sit through it, you can sit through it. It's worth it, honestly, and like you were saying, there's not really, like, any slow, like, dull parts, like,
Yeah.
everything is all,
It's all
like, leading up to
critical.
the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's not really any dull parts, so, like, you're not gonna I mean, don't watch it if you're tired, I guess, but
Yeah, I
you're
was
not
about to
gonna
say
fall asleep.
if you watch it, go early or be very wide awake, and pee as close as you can to
Yeah,
getting
yes.
into that theater. I am an early bird person. I will arrive to the theater early, which is fine. but go pee when the previews for other movies start, because you will make it through. Because I made the mistake, because Barbie's only 2 hours,
Yeah.
and I had a very large drink that I drank way too fast. And probably the last 20 minutes of Barbie, I had to pee so bad. But I was like, if I get up right now, I'm going to miss so much and I'm going to be so mad. I'm going to make it. And I did. I practically ran out of the theater afterwards because I had to pee so bad. But I did pee
Yeah,
before
same.
Oppenheimer.
Same.
Peed before Oppenheimer, and drank my drink much slower this time. I had a slushie this time, so that made a difference. And I made it all the way through. So, and so did my mom. My mom was worried about having to get up in the middle of the movie to go to the bathroom, but we both made it through successfully. So just
Yeah.
pee as close as you can to the beginning of the movie, and you'll be good.
Yeah. And don't look at the time of the movie. Just go in being like, yeah, this is
Just go in
fun.
and
It's not, I
enjoy.
mean, not fun, but yeah, just go in and
Eh,
enjoy.
Yeah, it's not a fun like Barbie fun, but it is a
Yeah.
very
It's
good and intriguing movie.
hmm And
I
if you like
do.
history, it's really good. I like my mom
Yes.
loved history. Like this
Mhm.
woman loved history. Like I know she would have loved this movie. She
Oh,
was
for
very
sure.
fascinated with history. Um and it is just interesting because it is a part of our history and
Yeah.
being able to see it in like the cinematic fashion. Really good. So if you like history, even if you don't like history, it's still good. Go
Yeah,
watch it.
just for the cast alone,
Yeah,
it's
honestly.
so
Yeah.
amazing. Like there were so many people that I was like, "Oh, you were in this movie and you were in this movie and you were in that
Mhm.
movie." And it was just such like Devin Bostick, who plays Roderick in the Diary of the Wimpy Kid movies, was in this
Yeah.
movie for a blip second, and I love him. He hasn't really
And
been in
Alex Wolff was in
anything.
that movie?
Yes, and I also love him. And the oh my gosh, the one guy, he plays the Hobgoblin in Andrew Garfield's Spider Man. He was in here, and I was just like, ugh, it was just like all of these actors that I haven't seen in anything like super big recently, that I actually adore them as actors. So it was so nice to see so
Yeah.
many of them in there. Plus, obviously, people we have seen in a lot of movies
Yeah, all the big
recently.
name, big
Yeah.
actors, yeah. Mhm.
But again, I like that it felt like everybody fit. There was no like I feel like Killian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. were like the equals in this movie. It was about their
Mhm.
kind of conflict and struggle towards the end. So I feel like nobody like outshined like the whole movie or anything like that. Like everybody just fit very nicely into this movie and into this time era.
Yeah, I agree. Very good.
And I think that's pretty much it for Oppenheimer.
Yes, go see it if you haven't.
Yes, go see it. Yeah, it's really good. I did see John Green made a TikTok about um he did a stitch with a another TikToker that was talking about they had a map of what state saw what movie was most popular. And
Mhm.
in New Mexico, the more popular movie opening weekend was Oppenheimer, which
Oh,
is
wow,
obvious
yeah.
because it
Yeah.
took place in New Mexico. But I didn't know, and I was surprised they didn't mention it in the movie. But Oppenheimer had tuberculosis. He
Oh, I didn't
struggled
know
with
that.
it, yeah, I guess a majority of his life, and that's why he said in the movie that when he was younger, he always dreamed of if he could somehow do science in New Mexico, that was his dream. And that's why, because tuberculosis, the main cure back in the day was to have nice, dry, warm air.
Mm,
And that would
that
help
makes
with your
sense. Yeah.
tuberculosis. So that's why he wanted in New Mexico. It wasn't just the fact that it didn't really have many Americans living in there. It
Mhm.
had plenty of Native Americans, which we all know from history, our country didn't really care about. They were just like, "That's nice that you're there. We're gonna use your land to test some bombs on."
Yeah.
Um, but that was why he wanted to go to New Mexico, was because he had tuberculosis. And I'm like, wow, that's actually insane, and also a really cool like tidbit to know, because
Yeah, I didn't know
apparently,
that, that's pretty interesting.
yeah, it's because John Green is always talking about tuberculosis, because despite it having like a cure and everything today, like thousands of people still die, like hundreds of thousands still die from tuberculosis every year, which is insane, because I feel like tuberculosis is a disease that existed in, World War II era and doesn't really exist
Mhm.
today, but people die from it all the time. But he's like, he made the comment, he's like, everything always comes back to being about tuberculosis. Just like, okay. But yes, very good movie. You should go see it.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think. I don't remember what studio made Oppenheimer, because I'm sure it'll be on a streaming service of some kind. I feel like it's a Warner Brother movie. Oh, it's a Universal movie, so that
Universal, yeah.
means it'll probably be on HBO Max when it releases on a streaming service.
Mhm.
Because Warner and Universal have a joint venture deal for stuff like that. So I suggest seeing it in the theater, because it's a beautiful film and it definitely deserves to be seen on a very large
Yeah,
screen.
absolutely. With the
It's,
surround sound.
yeah, the surround sound. Um, but I mean, you can always wait for streaming services too. But it is very long. Go pee beforehand. Don't drink too much during the movie, because you will have to pee and you will get up and you will miss something. But yeah, 10 out of 10, stellar cast, stellar. I mean, Christopher Nolan just like blew it out of the park. Um,
Mhm.
and I feel like we really haven't seen a. I don't want to call it a war movie, because it's not really a war movie. It's about the science behind the war that we were fighting,
Mhm.
but I feel like we haven't seen one of those in a long time.
In a
So
long
it
time, yeah.
Yeah, because most of the time it's about like the actual it's about the pilots or the soldiers. So it was really nice to see something about the scientists, and I hope it inspires a lot of younger people, younger generation, to pursue some form of science, because projects like these do exist out in the world, and we always need scientists to be looking at, hopefully not new necessarily bomb technology,
Yeah.
but just new ways of improving our relationship with the world and with humanity. So, very good. Go see it. And
Yes.
then come back
Mhm.
and re listen to this podcast, and you'll understand everything.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so don't forget to do all of the podcasty things down below. Don't forget to subscribe and rate our podcast, preferably 5 stars, if you please. Shout out to all our friends who have done that so far. We love you. Much kisses.
Yes, you're the
Um,
best.
even if one of us is more aggressive about getting friends to rate it than the other. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, and we will
TikTok.
see. Yes, TikTok. I keep forgetting we're on
Yes.
TikTok. Follow us on TikTok, on Instagram. Subscribe to us here on Spotify. I did look the other day. I think we have 11 subscribers. So that's
Yay!
very
Shout out to you
exciting.
guys.
Yeah, you guys are the best. You're making the dreams come true. So don't forget to share the podcast everywhere. Tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your dogs, and tell your cats. And we will see you guys in the next episode. So bye.
Bye.